I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest today, Sarah Morphew. Let me introduce her before I bring her on. Sarah is an artist and inner peace guide. She's a photographer and poet. She loves to teach easy tools to be present in the moment and to connect to our most true self. Sarah has trained with and learned from professors, pastors, gurus, monks across the United States and the world. As a certified meditation and mindfulness instructor, she provides training to school districts and organizations, as well as working one-on-one with clients and hosting virtual retreats. She often focuses on meditation and the present moment, self-compassion, and self-love. Sarah says she likes to help seekers find true peace in the present moment so you can stop chasing happiness and love yourself exactly as you are. Welcome, Sarah. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Hi, Nafisa. I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so glad that you are here. So I did share a little bit about your background and what you do. So can you tell me a little bit about how you got started and what you do with your clients?
Sure. I think I had anxiety a lot, like growing up and as a kid. And I had a lot of circumstances like in my childhood that caused me to kind of just like want to be happy. I used to say that a lot, like I just want to be happy. And I don't think I really knew what that looked like, but I think that caused me to kind of seek that and to prioritize that. So to me, especially in my young adulthood and even like as a teenager, that was always really important to me, just to find ways to just be happy, regardless of what's going on. And I'm from Los Angeles, so I had access to some pretty awesome teachers there. And I've done photography a lot as a career, but I've just been wanting to go down this direction more and more because I think it's really important. And I think, especially with everything going on right now with the pandemic and everything, people really want tools to kind of come back to that peaceful, calm state, especially when we're so agitated all the time. And so I feel like it is helpful to people, and it's kind of like a little bit of a relief that I can offer to help people regulate and come to a calm, peaceful state. And so I think that's kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing.
That's interesting that you say that you've been struggling with anxiety, and this is what kind of led you to learn more about yourself. And now you're paying it forward by helping other people. I'm the same way. I mean, I specialize in anxiety because of my own anxiety. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, that first of all, anxiety is so popular. I mean, not popular, it's so common. It's like the number one disorder in the world. But a lot of people struggle and really don't know what to do with it. They just silently struggle and think it's going to eventually go away. But you've actually done something about it, and you educated yourself by seeking out these teachers. So tell me about some of the teachers that you've worked with and what you've learned from them.
So first I'll say that it's not like I just like never have anxiety again. I healed myself. Everything's perfect or anything like that, because I think that there are always things that are, however much work we do, there are always things that come up that are going to kind of trigger us or put us back into this state, especially if it's a state of being or a, emotion that we're used to. So I think the idea with that then is to be aware of that, and then to like use that information, and also just to normalize that, I still have anxiety sometimes. It's not like everything's perfect, but then at least I can kind of cope with it better, and work through it quicker. I've had some awesome experience with teachers. Like I've have a grandmaster that's in Qigong that I just love so much. And I've studied meditation more, and a lot of it on the like spirituality is something that's really interesting to me. And I think that we're all kind of seeking. And for example, I think we're always seeking something. We think that like something is going to make us happy. So once I get this, have this success, then I'll be happy. Once this thing's taken care of in my life, then I'll be happy. But what happens is that just leaves more and more that we're kind of wanting, because it's never enough. And we have to realize that we can kind of create these feelings of well-being within ourselves. And when we do, then we have the ability to actually change our state of existence, as opposed to thinking that something externally is going to change that. I kind of went off on a little bit different than what you asked me, but hopefully that's kind of helpful too.
Well, definitely. And I like what you said about just because we're on the journey of self-healing doesn't mean we're cured, and there is no cure. I think there are people that are on a spectrum of anxiety, right? I mean, you might have been on the higher end when you didn't know what you were doing, but now you're in a more manageable range. And so that's what people need to understand, that it's the goal is not to completely get rid of it. Anxiety does serve a purpose in our lives, and we need to know how to make it work for us and not be controlled by it, and basically be in the driver's seat, I guess, instead of anxiety driving us. Today, we're talking about self-compassion, self-love, and self-care. So can you just tell us a little bit about what that looks like, what that means, and why it's important for us?
Yeah, so I think that's a good lead up to it, actually, because one of the things that comes up so much all the time, I think, especially with women, and especially with like old generations, like my mom's generation and my grandma's generation, we and mine too, but I think it's changing. People, we feel like we're not supposed to feel certain ways, or if we do, we're definitely not supposed to talk about them or let anybody know. So I feel like what happens is we become really hard on ourselves. So we think, we're supposed to be at a certain spot, or we're supposed to have our lives looking a certain way based on society. And of course, we're in this consumer society that's always telling us we're not good enough. We always need this next thing. And so we start to feel like, well, maybe we're not quite good enough, or maybe we're not where we're supposed to be, or maybe other people are judging us. We think it's like just us, there's something wrong with us. But really, when I talk to, all these women around the world, like, we all feel the same way, and we all go through the same thing. And I think it's true even with really simple feelings. So we'll have a feeling and we'll say like, well, I'm not supposed to feel like this. Well, there must be something wrong with me for feeling like this. Or, well, I need to like change this feeling right away so I can stay in the positive. But there are real world circumstances that affect us. And stress, just on a really primal level, is very hard on our bodies. And so that's when the self-compassion comes in, where we can say like, well, actually, it is okay that I feel like this. Well, actually, it's totally normal for me to feel like this. Well, probably anybody in my situation would feel like this. And that's a big part of the discomfort, I think, is like the shame around it, or the feeling like we're not supposed to. And so when we can kind of get over that and start to say, well, it is okay for me to feel like this. I'm going to allow myself to feel like this. I'm going to be gentle with myself when I feel like this. Like, we would be, compassionate with a friend that was going through a hard time. We'd be loving towards them. We would be empathetic towards them. We might cheer them on or tell them, it's okay to feel like this. You're doing great. And what we do when it's ourselves is we're really hard on ourselves. And so if we can just kind of shift that to have that compassion towards ourselves as the first step, we're not trying to like fix ourselves. We're not trying to change ourselves. We're not trying to say we're not good enough or judge ourselves. We're just going to say like, it's okay that I feel like this. Like, it's okay. Maybe I need to like take a little time for me now. Maybe I need to nurture myself a little bit. I think nurturing is a really good word too. Instead of being hard on ourselves, we can kind of shift that and start to nurture ourselves and just be a little gentle with ourselves. So that's kind of the self-compassion part, to be like compassionate towards ourselves. We're not perfect. We're not going to be perfect, but it's okay. We're going to allow these difficult feelings or circumstances.
I know a lot of my patients that struggle with anxiety, they're so used to beating themselves up. They feel like that's very productive for them, that they, if they're hard on themselves and they say all these horrible things to themselves, then that's going to motivate them to get things done. But like you said, we wouldn't talk to our friends that way. We wouldn't talk to a child that way. We wouldn't, if our own kid comes to us and says, oh, I'm so stupid, I can't believe I did this, you wouldn't want them to continue to say those things, but we say those things to ourselves. How do you, with the intention of being self-compassionate and self-accepting, how do you change that negative self-talk?
So I think we're really habit forming people. We do a lot of things by habit, and it just becomes natural to us. And then we don't really think about it. It's just subconscious. So I think the first step is awareness, and that's why I talk about present moment and mindfulness, because we have to be able to become aware of how we're feeling, aware of how we react in certain situations, aware of what kind of things trigger us, and then from there we can kind of make more conscious decisions, whereas if we're not even really aware, we're just kind of reacting, and so we don't have a lot of choice. So it is work of, because a lot of times we don't really want to look at ourselves too. So it is the hard work of looking at ourselves, and then again, not judging, just being compassionate with the information that we receive. So For example, if we're really striving in a certain way, we feel like we don't have the success that we need or want, for example, it might not actually be a certain job or a certain status that we want. It might be like it's these underlying feelings of being like good enough, kind of. A lot of it, I think, for a lot of people comes to like being worthy and good enough. And we feel so judged by society. So we judge ourselves based on societal norms, which aren't even necessarily healthy. So when we can kind of realize and be aware of how we're feeling, why we feel certain ways, then we can start asking ourselves like, well, why? Like, what is the root of it? What is it that I really want? Because maybe what we really want, we already have all around us, or what we really want isn't that hard. But again, it comes back to the seeking where we think that like, once I'm healed, everything will be great. Or once I have this, job or status or the success, then everything will be great. Or once, I move to a new house, everything will be great. Where really that's just putting off and kind of giving away our power to some external circumstance when really we do have the power to create. So I think it's partly just being willing to take that responsibility. It's not like habits are hard to change. It's not like we're going to, change all our habits right away. But again, then being that compassionate towards ourselves, it's just really training ourselves in a new way of being. And I think from the self-compassion, once we can be like, okay, it's okay for us to feel this way, that takes away some of the stigma around our feelings. And then we can, from the self-compassion is where we start to do self-acceptance, because then we can start to say like, well, I guess maybe I am okay. Like, well, I guess maybe I don't need that. Well, maybe it is okay to feel this way. Maybe even though I had to, not get anything accomplished today, I'm still awesome, right? So I think it is just changing the way we see ourselves, and I do think that takes time.
As far as being aware, what are some strategies that you use to become aware? Because there's so many thoughts that go throughout our mind all day long. I mean, we have so many thoughts, thousands of thoughts that run through our minds, but how do you identify them and then change them? Because it really, like you said, we are creatures of habits. Sometimes we don't even know we're saying some of the things we're saying. Like I identified some of the things that I say that I was like, okay, it's not something that I was raised hearing. It was stuff I picked up from TV. Like maybe I saw somebody else calling themselves a name and kind of being hard on themselves. And then without even realizing, I started doing that to myself. And it took me actually paying attention and catching it before I could change it. So what are some strategies that you use for that?
So for present moment, I think, mindfulness has been, they've been doing studies on it for a little while now. And one of the things that it helps with is focusing on the present moment and overcoming ruminating thoughts. So that's like where the anxiety kicks in and depression too, where we're just like overthinking. Our mind's just going. So what we want to do is like take the time to kind of settle ourselves down. So I'll just do a couple things real quick, easy. So if you just want to like sit on the front third of your chair, so it kind of pushes your back into a straight position. You could put your feet on the floor, your hands on your lap, and just straightening your spine, opening your chest, even just straightening your spine can really help you get more aligned, can kind of help you be more upright, can help you be more focused, can kind of put you in the present moment. So we can take just like one full deep breath, breathing in and releasing it, and just trying to put all our attention on our breathing. So if we want to do that right now, we'll just take a breath and try to focus all our attention on the one breath. So hopefully you can notice even that just kind of regulates us a little bit. We have so much stimulation in our lives. We have so much expectations of us. We have so many things we're trying to do, especially if we have, kids or family, we have a job, we have all these things that are, pulling at us. And then we're on, social media, we're on our computers, we're watching TV maybe. So we have all these different things coming at us all the time. And, even videos and TV with animation, it's just so much. We're being bombarded so much, especially these little kids. And we're not really taking that time to just like, well, what if we just take away that stimulation for a little while? And that's one thing that can be really, really powerful, especially when we can start to notice like, because sometimes what happens is we're just going through our life and all of a sudden we're just like, we shut down, we're just overwhelmed, and we didn't necessarily see it coming. And even if we did see it coming, we didn't necessarily like do anything about it. And sometimes even when we have all the tools in the world, we don't do anything about it. But if we can notice when we're starting to get stressed out, when we're starting to get overwhelmed, we can say, okay, I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to take 30 seconds. I'm going to take 5 minutes. I'm going to take 10 minutes. And doing things that can help settle our nervous systems. So that could be just like taking a breath. That can be spending 5 minutes or 10, 20 minutes just sitting with our breath quietly without having, TV, without having people around. We can go for a walk in nature, do all these different things that can kind of help get our mind to quiet down, to get us to get still. And when we do that at first, like if we do it and we're going to take 5 minutes, we're going to close our door, we're going to lock it, make sure there's no sound, and we're just going to practice this on a regular basis, then it starts to become more of a normal like resting state. That's one of the things they found with meditation is that people who were experienced and practiced at meditating were able to enter that kind of still meditative state as a baseline, even when they were just resting, but not actually practicing meditation. So I think that's really interesting with feelings in general and states of being is that we get habituated to them. So we might constantly be in a state of stress and we might kind of go back to that naturally. So what we can do is we can start introducing other states of being. So if we've said, for example, we're going to meditate for 3 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day, keep it simple, even do 3 breaths in the morning, we're starting then to like introduce that state to our body. And the more we do it, we're starting to like normalize that state. And then we start to fall back into that state just subconsciously. So that's why we're not necessarily like trying to change everything about ourselves, and that's really hard to do. But if we can really slowly start introducing what we want, like I want to be at peace, so I'm going to do this exercise that puts me at peace. That doesn't mean I'm going to be at peace all the time, but I'm introducing that state of being into my body, into my nervous system. And so my body starts to get used to that state, and then it starts to desire that state, and then it starts to just naturally bring it up. So then when I'm in a situation, I might be able to be triggered into becoming really present. Or when I start to get anxiety, that was one of my first things. When I'd start to get anxiety, like and outside, like in a group of people or whatever, then I would just go back to that really still state and not force myself to, talk or to do anything that was what other people expected, just to allow myself to be calm. And then what's interesting is other people notice that too, and it helps them to calm down. And it just works as then you are basically using your feelings as to be like, okay, well, now that this has come up, now I can use this in a way that I can just get back to the present moment. So the idea is to use it in times where you're setting it up, and then we're getting used to it so that it starts to come back into our lives like in other times too, and it makes it easier and easier to experience that.
For a lot of people, they just have a really hard time making time. And so the idea of adding another 5 minutes can be very overwhelming. And I've heard a lot of my patients say, I just can't sit still for 5 minutes to even do the meditation. And like you said, it could be for just 3 breaths in the morning. But I think that's also a good segue into just self-care. And I think a lot of us are so used to, especially if we have an over-anxious, overachieving mind, we just want to push ourselves, burn the candle at both ends, and just do more and more and more without realizing how much more effective we are when we do take care of ourselves, when we do take time for ourselves to meditate, and just like you said, nurture ourselves. Can you say a little bit about why is it so hard for us to take care of ourselves and make that time and prioritizing ourselves?
I think that comes back to, expectations, what we think is expected of us. And I've heard that so many times too, when people say, well, I don't have the time to do this. And here's just a nice story. There's a teacher, it was her first year teaching, and she did my program. And one of the things we did was a 5-minute breath meditation. And it was after school. She had needed to grade her papers before she could go home. And she was like, well, I don't want to put an extra 5 minutes in, I just want to get this done as quickly as I can. But she said, no, I know this is good. I know this is helpful. I'm going to take this 5 minutes. So she took this 5 minutes. She did my meditation. It was a guided meditation. And she said afterwards, she got her work done in like 20 minutes instead of 40 minutes. because she was able to really focus her attention, be really present. Her mind didn't keep getting distracted and wandering. So actually taking that time, even if in a minute and 5 minutes, it's not that much, it actually does allow us to be more present. It allows us to be more focused. It allows us to get things done more quickly, and not just quickly, but like do a better job with our work. It also gives us opportunities to be really present with people in our lives that are important to us, like our kids or family members, where we're normally just kind of going out around our day, and they're there, but it's not really like a really beautiful, cherished moment. And so being really present with somebody that we love allows us to kind of cherish that moment and be really present with them. And it is just such a beautiful gift, because that kind of stays as part of our part of who we are and part of our memories. So another really popular thing is like, I can't do it. I'm not good at it. And I just want to say that there are like so many different types of meditations. Some people, they try an app or they try one thing and it's not right for them, and they think that means they're not good at it or it doesn't work for them. But there are so many different things we can do, and there are so many different anchors we can use to come back to the present moment. So it doesn't have to be boring. People say my 5-minute one because I lead them through it, especially at the beginning. It does help to have somebody like bringing you back to the present moment, bringing you back to your breathing, so you're not just wandering the whole time. And there's nothing wrong with your mind wandering. Like, that's what our mind does. So we're not just trying to like never have a wandering mind and be perfect at meditation. We're just kind of trying to get calm and regulate. So as far as self-care, I think that's something that's really individualized. So I think it just depends on what is good for you. I think people like to think of self-care as like bubble baths and, putting our feet up and all this stuff. But self-care can be just being compassionate with yourself. Self-care can be like accepting yourself as you are and choosing to love yourself anyways. Our brain notices all the bad things that have happened because it's like a defense mechanism to keep us safe. But we have so many more good things happen than bad things, but we focus on the bad things. And so if we can start to consciously seek out the good things or look for the good things, then we start to realize like, oh, I have all these good things happening too. So I think really making sure you're taking the time for yourself is the most ultimate form of self-care. And I mean, having your finances in order, having food, healthy food, there's so many things that can constitute self-care. But really, as far as what we're talking about, like taking that time for yourself, noticing how you're feeling, being gentle with yourself, how you're feeling, taking that time to like, okay, I'm going to take that minute to just get calm. I'm going to take that 5 minutes to go walk outside, because I know that it's going to have a good, have a really powerful effect on me in the long run.
Yeah, it's not just like you said, bubble baths and massage. It could be just for me, if I feel like I need to sleep in, I'll sleep in. If I need to take a nap, I'll take a nap. If I need to just take a break and walk away and come back to it, I'll do that. And it's just a matter, like you said, being compassionate and caring enough for yourself to say, okay, I need a break. I need to go take care of myself now. Or even eating well. Eating healthy foods is self-care. The other issue that a lot of my patients will bring up is the idea of self-love. And a lot of people associate self-love with arrogance, or I don't want to be arrogant. I don't want to have to be conceited about it. And the idea of self-love makes people cringe. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about that and why that is, and why it's so hard for us to have self-love for ourselves?
I think that's really interesting. And I think probably the reason why it makes us cringe is because we don't think we're worthy of it a lot of times, or we do think it's vain. And I think that, and I think that's why we need to be humble and have humility as well, because self-love isn't an ego-based thing. It's not saying like, I'm so great, look at me. It's saying like, actually, like, I kind of suck in some ways. Like, I had some major failures. I've done some really stupid things. And you know what? Like, that doesn't take away my worth. And like, I'm still worthy of love. And how can I expect somebody else to provide that for me when I don't even love myself? So it's not about our own greatness. It's actually kind of, finding that love like in our humility.
Yeah, and I also find that the people that are the ones bragging about how great they are, that comes from a lot of insecurity. It's not love at all. It's a lot of fear and a lot of insecurity and creating this illusion of love. But like you said, when you do actually love yourself and you care about yourself, you accept yourself with all the flaws, the good, the bad, and saying, yeah, I'm still okay. It's okay to make mistakes. And having that unconditional love, I guess, that we have towards our children or towards family members, applying that to ourselves. And it saddens me that people find it so hard or consider it or equate it with arrogance or conceit, because we're not taught to do that. And especially as women, we're supposed to play the martyr role, right? Where we put ourselves last because that's gonna, society rewards that. But putting ourselves first really sends a signal to our kids that they need to take care of themselves too, and that they're valuable and we're valuable. And it's a great lesson, and I wish that more people would apply it. Do you have any, like you've mentioned a couple of things as far as like meditation and mindfulness, breathing exercises. Do you have any good practical strategies that people can walk away with today's session, as far as what are some things that people can do in addition to the meditation, the breathing exercises, that can help them get to that level of self-acceptance, self-compassion, self-love, and self-care? Whatever you have to share.
Okay, so you mentioned the like having that unconditional love towards our kids. And I think that feelings are really powerful, and we can choose what feelings we want to experience. So if we have already had unconditional love for our kids, that's like a really beautiful place to start, because we kind of tend to like love our kids, you know, as much as possible. And if we can take that feeling of love and like just experience it, apply it. You know, it might be hard to apply it to ourselves. It might be hard to apply it to, just because something hard doesn't mean you shouldn't do it or shouldn't try, or that you're going to get it right or perfect on the first try. Sometimes things take a long time, but that feeling of unconditional love is such a powerful feeling. So if we can tap into, like, just think for a minute how much you love your kids and just feel your heart with that love. And then it doesn't matter who you apply that love to. Like, you can apply that love to a plant. You can apply that love to yourself. You can apply that love to some woman you just saw walking down the street, or somebody who's struggling. And the point is, when you're tapping into that feeling of unconditional love, it's a really powerful feeling to be part of. So a lot of what I do is kind of tapping into feelings and getting people to experience feelings. So just for example, real quick, if we start to think about, just, straighten your spine, close your eyes for a second, think about something that, not too big of a thing, but something little that you're kind of hard on yourself about. And if you take a moment to actually like think about being hard on yourself and notice like how it feels, notice where you feel it in the body, a lot of times it starts to kind of make us a little uncomfortable, a little anxiety. And then instead, if we think about, like, if you just repeat in your mind, like, I love and accept myself just as I am. Like, maybe it feels false at first, maybe you don't, but if you can just kind of imagine the feeling and again, repeat to yourself, like, I love and accept myself just as I am. What a powerful statement. Like, it doesn't matter if it's 100% true immediately, but we can change our feelings and then kind of start to normalize them. So I have on my website like a really easy 5-minute breath exercise. People say it's super easy to follow along to. I could like lead something here if you wanted to, or just direct them that way. But the idea is to get you to a calm and peaceful state of being throughout your day, throughout your life, throughout, with all the chaos that's always around us, just making sure you're taking that time to get still, to take a breath, to come back to the present moment. That, to me, that's the most powerful thing we can do, is just coming back to that present moment. Because in the present moment, we don't need to judge anything. We don't need to be doing anything. We can just be with like who we really truly are. And I think that's another issue, is we always feel like we need to hide who we really are. We're going to be ashamed of who we really are. If somebody finds out about this, they might not like us anymore. What will they think? But the thing is, everybody's going through the same thing. Everybody has their own feeling the same way, and nobody's really thinking about each other. They're kind of all worried about themselves. So I think it just takes time, and we just need to keep, being aware of our self-talk, asking ourselves why we're feeling these ways, what's the actual root of it, and then slowly over time, adding the feelings that we want to add.
I love that. Let's, if you have the time, let's do that quick little meditation. I think it'll be a good way to end. And maybe people can take that minute, that 5 minutes, and recharge themselves before they go back to doing what they were doing before they started listening. So if you have time, I would love for us to do a guided meditation.
Yeah, sounds good. So this is going to be really easy. It's just going to be sitting with our breathing, becoming aware of our breathing. I always say, we always want to be gentle with ourselves. We never want to force ourselves to do anything. If you feel like you want to stop. This is all about no judgment, all about just what is best for you right now in this moment. So I will invite you to sit forward on your chair, put your feet flat on the floor, hands in your lap, just however you're comfortable. It is powerful to kind of open our chest a little bit, straighten our spine. If you want to close your eyes, you can, just to let go of any stimulation in your room. If you want to just kind of half close your eyes, keep them kind of gazing at a spot a little ways in front of you. And just take a deep breath and release it. And just try to relax your eyebrows, relax your jaw, keeping your spine straight. Just relax, and we'll take 2 more full deep breaths through our nose and then release them out of our mouths. So I just want you to start to bring your full awareness to your breath, to your breathing. Just notice the sensations in your body as you breathe. You can notice the air entering through your nostrils, traveling down your throat into your lungs, just trying to follow the air. And then notice as you exhale and the air leaves your body. If you want to, you can put your hand on your chest and just notice the sensations in your chest as you breathe. Notice your chest rising and falling as you breathe. Allowing your body to fully relax. Another place to place your awareness is on your stomach as you breathe, your stomach moving in and out. So you might notice that one of these areas in your body is easier to become aware of, easier to keep your attention. Just the air coming in and out of your body, your chest moving, your stomach moving, anything that's easiest for you. Just bring your full awareness to your breathing. Just noticing your breath, noticing your body. And when you notice that your mind has wandered to another thought, it's perfectly normal. Just lovingly, with a smile, bring your awareness back to your breathing. Just breathing normally through your nose if you can, not trying to control anything, just relaxing, noticing your breath. And again, when you've noticed your mind has wandered, just smile, lovingly bring your awareness back to your breathing. Allowing yourself to relax, allowing your mind to relax, and just focusing on the sensations of breathing in our body. Allowing ourselves to relax. And again, when you notice your mind has wandered to a thought, to something else, just with a smile, bring your awareness back to your breathing. And now you can just start to bring your awareness to your whole body. Just noticing your feet, noticing your clothes, noticing your hands, what they're touching. With your eyes still closed or relaxed, just becoming aware of the room, the temperature of the room. Just noticing the sound in my voice, where you're at. And just take your time, and when you feel ready, you can slowly open your eyes.
I know that felt really good for me. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I would just encourage people to check in and ask, how are you feeling right now? How are you feeling compared to before? And just throughout your day, you can even ask, like, how am I feeling? And if you're starting to get stressed or agitated, you can ask why and see if there's something you need to change or do. Or if you just need to take that time. And it, like I said, doesn't need to be 5 minutes, doesn't need to be 20 minutes. It can be 1 minute, it can be one breath.
Yeah, it's wonderful. One of the things I suggest to my patients is just to put a little sticker that says breathe on your rear view mirror, and just every time you're at a stop sign, look at it and just take a deep breath. It just makes such a big difference for us to breathe, because when we're running around, we're doing shallow breaths, and taking that deep breath makes such a big difference. So thank you for doing that. That was wonderful. So where can people find you? You mentioned your website, but or your website, social media, where can people find you and follow you and learn more from you?
So my website is my name, sarahmorphew.com. And I'm still working on that, but I'm trying to put up more and more tools that are just easy for people to use. And then I use my Facebook personal page the most, but I'm also on Instagram as Sarah Morphew, and I spell that SarahMorphyu on Instagram, and my regular last name is Morphew on Facebook and website. And I'll just say also, with the breath can become a great anchor. It can be a great reminder where we never really pay attention to it, but it is what allows us to be alive. And if we can just notice our breath, in the middle of a busy situation, that can just be an anchor to come back to the present moment.
Definitely. Breath work is definitely a skill that we all need to master, because it's essential. And so thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today and sharing all this information. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Nafisa. I appreciate you and what you're doing, and I appreciate everybody who's here today listening. So thank you.